Hi, my name is TJ. My dad died of overdose on January 1st, 2011, and my mom is a recovering addict. God helped my mom, and now together we are here to help you. Now let's talk recovery. Here's your host, my mom, Susan Sexton-Wood.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Lahman with Unchained Praises, and today I am here again with Susan Sexton-Wood, and I'm in the driver's seat. Power. Oh, hi Susan, how's it going?
That's good.
Good. Well, here we are. It's just you and me again.
Mm-hmm.
There's a song like that, you and me against the world. I'm sure that you felt that way sometimes, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This year's been kind of remarkable for you, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things have happened, haven't they?
Yeah.
Don't know where I'm going with this, do you?
No.
Well, I was watching when the show first starts. There are the clips that show Tim
Mm-hmm.
and TJ, and it's TJ's voice.
Yeah.
This past month or so ago, something happened for TJ and for you. You got to go somewhere.
Oh, we went to Michigan.
Tell them about that.
Well, Tim is TJ's father, and so at the beginning you seen them walking. TJ hasn't been able to visit his dad's grave since he was buried in 2011, so we took a trip to Michigan for him to visit his dad's grave and to have closure for himself. When his dad died, he was 6, so that's what we did. We took him, and he wrote a note and put it under, we bought something to put on the grave too, and he wrote a note and put it under it, and I think there was a lot of healing in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know it was something that he had looked forward to doing, and
Mm-hmm.
of course he would have had no idea how he was going to feel emotionally. And Dean went with you as well, didn't
Mm-hmm.
he? So it's kind of a whole family thing there.
Yeah, and he got to meet his aunt and uncle.
Yeah.
And some cousins. So his dad's side of the family, he's finally been able to meet some of them, and our goal is to at least once a year go to that area.
And that's a good goal.
Yeah.
It really is. Well, that comes around to how people, like you said, there was no closure, particularly for TJ. Of course, he was younger at the time as well. He was what? How old was he?
He was 6
when he
passed away.
When he passed away. So, and he is, how old is he now? 13? 14? Oh, my word, 14. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
But, all of that, and I want to say this to everybody out there, is that, Susan is not just somebody who is just trying to talk the talk. She walks the walk. She really does. And you live through it every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from working with you in the office and everything, I hear you many times talk about, you are in recovery every day of your life. Do you think that some people have kind of a false belief that they think maybe that 12-step mentality sometimes, where you think, well, if I finish 12 steps, then I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm great now.
Oh, that happens a lot.
And that's not it, though, is it?
Mm-mm.
And do you think that's where some of the relapses can occur, because you think you've arrived when you really haven't?
Right. We forget about our recovery. We get comfortable in our life, and we forget about what's been working for us. Mm-hmm. And the I got this attitude. Yeah.
Does that ever happen to you?
It has, yeah. Yeah. I mean, at this point in my life, no, because it's already happened to me. After the first inpatient facility that I was in, I relapsed after that. And I think that's a big part of it. It was, I got this attitude.
So how do you address that when you are talking with somebody? Number one, I guess they have to be aware that it definitely can happen.
Right. I think the best thing that you can do is just share with them. If by calling somebody out on that, it's not really going to work too much.
No.
They'll listen more when like for me, when I share that I've already been through it.
Well,
then
and
it's
that's
a
what I
little bit
meant,
more.
where it was more of a, not where you slam them, but you try to, or do you try to make them aware
Right.
that you have to be careful with that, and that's where that encouragement comes, and that's where, again, as we have said on previous programs, when we do our sessions and all of that, and we do the You're Not Alone booklet here, you go over some of that in here, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Because part of that recovery is, of course, forgiving others, forgiving yourself.
Right.
Is that, if you had to look at all of the action goals that you try to encourage people, which one would you think, or would you like to share with us, that is the most difficult for someone to maybe really embrace, accept, or to do?
Well, probably a couple comes to mind when I think of that, and that would be acceptance and forgiveness. Accepting that we're an addict is really hard for some of us. And then forgiving the way, and I feel, and this is just my personal opinion, in order to forgive others, I first have to forgive myself. If I haven't forgiven myself, and somebody asked for forgiveness of me, or if I'm asking for forgiveness for something that I've done and I haven't forgiven myself, then how's that really being forgiven? Because I'm still holding on to it.
Those are biggies, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think the forgiveness, and that could go with the families on forgiveness too. And they have to forgive themselves sometimes, don't they?
Yeah.
It's not just the addict, because sometimes as parents or loved ones, there are times when we are filled with guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
And so, that being said, then we have to learn to forgive ourselves as well, and then to be able to push on and forgive them and forgive ourselves.
Right. Right.
And what was the other one that you said? Forgiveness and
Acceptance.
acceptance. Oh, yeah, yeah. What is the hardest part of accepting?
Accepting that we're an addict. I know the first time that I ever said it, it was the hardest thing I ever said.
To verbalize it.
Yeah.
Okay, because you knew you were.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to say it is another
brings
thing.
reality to it.
Wow. I hadn't thought about that. That's kind of the admitting it type of a thing to, that's what they say, the first step to recovery is
Right.
admitting it.
Yeah.
You've often talked about also, because it's also addressed in the book here, when we have these, and you, like we had mentioned before, that we have this booklet that they can make notes on and all of that. And you talk about recovery and sobriety. Do people think they're the same thing?
Yeah. There's a misconception about that.
Explain the difference.
Sobriety is just taking the substance away, and recovery is a lifestyle change. I can take a substance away, but if I'm not changing my life, then I'm not in recovery. The way that the atmosphere that we surround ourselves with, and the reason that recovery and sobriety are different, we can take away that substance, but if we're still maintaining that same lifestyle, it's going to lead us back to what we were doing.
Do you think people are more fooled by overconfidence in sobriety than their effort in recovery?
They can be.
Interesting.
Yeah, because when I mention my sobriety date, I always say, but my recovery time exceeds that. Yeah. There are people in recovery that they may have 20 years of sobriety, but they may not have 20 years of recovery. Because recovery is you change your life. It's not just taking away the substance.
I've seen that on other programs that we've had of different people who have been on this program who have said that many, many, many times, of that that recovery walk being your life has changed.
Right.
It is not the same. That it is that turning away. It is going the other direction and staying on that path. When you were started your recovery, and you have already have shared before with our audience as well as many times when you've spoke, that you have in the past relapsed. Were there things there that in that relapse that, because you just talked about it just a few moments ago too, of why does somebody relapse?
There's
A million reasons?
a million reasons, more than a million reasons.
Is there anything that you see that is a little more common that kind of pops up as, if we're going to dissect it and put it in little cute little packages, saying, well, this happens a lot that causes that? Is there maybe something?
You can get bored in your recovery.
How so?
Sometimes doing too much of recovery, you can get burnt out.
Oh, now see, there you go. The addicts are out there saying, yep, that's right. See, that's too much recovery.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
explain what too much recovery is.
Well, when you're doing it, I've actually experienced burnout because my life is recovery. My job is recovery. Everything in my life is recovery. And I haven't found that balance yet. But one thing that I do to prevent a relapse is I talk about it. I'm not just going through it without verbally speaking, and that's one of the biggest keys is we verbally have to say what's going on in order to get better. Because I can hide stuff real good, but when I say, this is happening to me right now, I'm verbally speaking it, and then eventually the more I work on that, I can understand it a little bit more. I can say, I've probably been burnt out for a while, but to actually realize it, I guess, because I'm sure there's different phases in that too. But to finally realize it is when something has to be done about it. Like me, I need more of a balance. I need to learn how, and my husband has said this since we got married, I need to learn how to leave work at work, and when I'm home, I'm home.
But that's hard for you, isn't it?
It is hard because I'm in recovery too.
Yeah, yeah. You, when you're talking about sharing and talking with somebody, that brings me right back to our You're Not Alone booklet and what you're doing when you actually sit down and talk to somebody in a session, one-on-one, and you're talking with them. I know from working with you in the office, and I'm there 2 days a week, and we share a lot, and there's a lot to be said about that. And I think that is something that when you have somebody that you can share your thoughts with, I think for the most part, at least I feel, that you feel like you can share just about anything in the office, and we're not going to agree on everything. But I would hope that you have that freedom, that you know that when you are struggling, you do want to share it. And I've seen you do that to where you want to talk. You look forward to that time that we're in the office. It's a good time, and that shows how our relationships with each other are very important. When you were in addiction, did you kind of feel like you were really alone?
Oh yeah.
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 I was just thinking about that when you are, I remember I did have a stepbrother that was an addict when I was very first married, and I remember seeing him, and he must have been going through some sort of withdrawal at the time, and I remember it was a Christmas gathering. I remember him sitting in that chair, almost in a fetal position, just very withdrawn, very you know, and he looked alone, and yet he was in a room with a whole lot of people, you know,
Right.
and but yet I'm sure he felt alone, very alone.
Yeah.
So I see the importance of being able to feel like there's somebody that you can talk to. Because I know when you do talk with some of the clients that come in and see you, which those are absolutely free. I want to make sure that we stress that you know, all they have to do is you just call the number on your screen if you want to talk with Susan and you want that to be an individual session. She will be very happy to make sure that she gets you scheduled in. But that is that time of when you're connecting. Have you seen that work out differently with the people that you do talk to? I mean, I'm sure some are big talkers and they're just going to say anything and everything, but then there are others that maybe aren't. Is that correct?
What do you mean?
Well, easily to talk when you sit down at a session.
Oh, yeah. Well, at the very beginning of coming in for the first time, people don't want to talk, but they get comfortable enough. And I think you've seen it with one individual that comes to mind that comes in, and now this person will say something to you, but at the very beginning,
No.
there was not much talking.
No,
not
most,
even
of,
with
most
me.
of the time, this person would come in and might have the hood up over the head and just pass by. And now the person actually always stops and says hi.
Yeah.
You know, so there is a big difference.
And even shares some of the stuff with
yeah,
you.
exactly. So tell them exactly how, because we do want to encourage you that if you do need help, please call the number that you see on your screen right now, so that Susan can you know, get you in her schedule to be able to talk to you. Tell how that very first session, what happens at that very first session, very first one?
Well, I share what the ministry is about, and I share myself, that I'm a recovering addict, and I share kind of what I've gone through. Sometimes I'll even play a video that my son put together of my before and after, just to help kind of relax a little bit. And then I'll pull out the booklet and we'll go over what their need is. Sometimes it just varies. Everybody's need is different. So if somebody needs a detox or if they need an inpatient facility, we want to address that first. That's the most fragile part in a recovery, when someone needs they need that detox. That's the most fragile part, I think, is needing detox. But we want to help them by getting them into the facility, because then it moves forward after that. We don't want to, if it comes down to it, I don't want them to leave the office without having a date of when they can go into a facility. And we try to connect, after they get out of detox, we try to connect them with the facility to go straight to the other facility too.
Because the main issue is the person. I know, as we've listed in our booklet here, of the inpatient and outpatient and meetings and all of those things are listed in here in a local area. I mean, from Indianapolis to where? From
The furthest is, well, I think there's a Tennessee.
There's one in down in Tennessee.
I think
okay. And so, you know, we have, you know, a nice area to be able to help people, to send them to, you know, to be able to do that. But, you know, we never at Unchained Praises, you know, we work hand in hand as far as realizing what the need is and where they need to go. And we don't want it to just stay here. We're not equipped for that. That's not what we do is different than what all of the others do, you know, and we realize that, we recognize that, and we know that what we do is an Unchained Praises.
Right.
It's what Unchained Praises does, and there's not a similarity. I mean, there are some similarities. Don't get me wrong, but there is uniqueness to each one. So we never felt like, at least I never felt like we were in competition with anybody.
No,
You
it's
know,
about partnership.
exactly, exactly. So we're never thinking like, well, you need to just come see us. No, because, and you've said this, I don't know how many times, to where, if you don't feel comfortable talking to you, then maybe there's somebody else that you can say, okay, but talk to somebody.
Right.
Because that is absolutely important. Another thing that I've noticed in this booklet too, and it's actually something that you had mentioned to me when we were putting it together. You always had there's a page in here that says goals. Mm-hmm. But then later on, not too awful long ago actually, you said, you know what, we need to have a gratitude list. Why do they need a gratitude list?
Because it's, especially at the beginning of recovery, it's hard to realize what we're thankful for. And to get up daily and remind ourselves what we have instead of what we don't have will help us move forward, especially after most of us become homeless. Most of us. Does it happen to everybody? No, it doesn't. But most of us have lost custody of our kids. We don't have jobs. We don't have a place to live. We don't have a vehicle. We're homeless. But if I look at myself from the very first time I went into a facility, I could still be grateful, even though I'm not thankful. I'm not thankful I'm an addict, but I can be grateful. So there's two different things too. It's thankful and grateful are different. But when I was in that first facility, I'd lost everything. I didn't have Social Security card. I didn't have a birth certificate. I didn't have an ID. I didn't have contacts or glasses, and I have to have them. You would be blurry if I didn't have my contacts in. That's how bad my eyes are, and I didn't have any of that. But if I wrote out a gratitude list, I could be thankful that I have a roof over my head now, that I have food. I can start being grateful for some things happening in my life, and that's where my relationship with my family, like my mom was about the only person that talked to me when I was in that facility, but a couple months after, my kids come to see me. So that's where the gratefulness comes in. Even though I wasn't thankful, that the things happened between us, I started to be grateful for things.
I remember you saying, I like your distinction between thankful and grateful. I remember hearing you speak several times about you weren't thankful when you got arrested,
Right.
but you were grateful. Mm-hmm. Tell them about that.
Well, there's several times that I was arrested.
Pick one.
I think it goes back to my mom when she had me arrested. I wasn't thankful that I was arrested, but I was grateful that I started seeing my part in the situation. I started seeing that she had a right to do that, and I wasn't mad at her. I was grateful that I was seeing change in myself.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I think that those are things that we have to, that we want to encourage to be able to see those things, because we don't. Mm-hmm. I say we, the recovering addict doesn't. But by the same token, what about the parents on a gratitude list? I'm saying parents, the loved ones. How would their gratitude lists be different?
Well, they can be thankful that their child or their loved one is still living. They can be, they could be thankful that they've lost a job, because losing a job sometimes gets people out of addiction. So you can look at it from different aspects when it comes to parents.
Well, and I think that's it's a hard battle for both the addict and the loved one. Did you understand when you were in addiction the pain you caused your family?
Mm-mm. Oh, no.
When did you start realizing it?
I didn't start realizing it till I was in my recovery. So I started changing my life.
So sobriety didn't help it.
No, recovery is what.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
working on myself and starting to feel the remorse for it, and actually being clear. Sobriety and recovery helped it
Right.
because I had to be sober in order to see what was going on around me. Visually, I didn't see the hurt until I was working on myself.
What hides that for the addict? Is it the drug that hides it?
Oh yeah.
So
Keeps
the
us
numbness,
numb and,
the
yeah.
numbness of it,
Yeah.
which I guess is the
We're
whole
not in reality.
purpose.
Yeah, we're not in reality.
Well, addiction is real, and those results are extremely real in what happens in families. I know that in some of the programs that I've been involved with, I remember one of the early ones, and I remember there was a little baby, a lady, a girl, had a little child. You remember that? She had this little child that was not very old at all. I mean, it was still warm, you know. And I was so impressed when I saw that. And as we were closing, I had her come up because you look at that little baby, you look at that child, and here is this precious, beautiful child. And nobody sees that child thinking, okay, 12, 13, 14, I'm saying that young, that little bitty baby is going to be an addict. You don't see that.
Right.
And obviously the child doesn't see that at all. And, you know, it's heartbreaking for everybody. It's heartbreaking for the addict, because I don't think I've ever talked to, I know some addicts will say, yeah, who was it? Oh, I know who it was. Somebody was saying a long time ago about how they really, really missed the needle. So there's
It's real.
yeah, that is a real thing. So you long for that needle.
It's an addiction. It becomes the addiction to the needle, to the substance, to the routine. All of it is addiction. It's
Wow.
not just an addiction to the substance.
Well, it's a good thing that you are in your recovery. Would you finish out here by reading your poem, Wonderful? You probably know it by heart anyway.
Yeah. It's called Wonderful. How wonderful life is since I am clean. How wonderful my heart feels to finally be free. How wonderful the stars that light my way. How wonderful the smile feels on my face. How wonderful this world is now I see. All of these things God has truly given to me. I stand here today, heroin free. Or I sit here today, heroin free.
And you could, if you were standing up, it'd be the same.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what we want for everybody watching this. That we want them to experience the wonderful life of recovery. Because it is that. Is it easy? No. Is it smooth? No. Are the results worth it? Yes. So we want to extend to you another invitation to please, you need us, you need Unchained Praises, please give us a call, because we are here for you. And we want you to also experience the wonderful, wonderful life that recovery can bring you. And all it takes is that very first step. Pick up the phone, give us a call, talk to somebody. We're here for you.